Today's topic is something I'm really excited about. The challenge that I have is how do I take everything that's normally complex and make it simple that you can utilize, and things that you can utilize to better your life. In this case, we talked, last time we talked about this neuro-linguistics programming, or NLP. Again, neuro-linguistics program. We talked about the first step, which is mirroring and matching, is when you meet someone, mirroring and matching their pace, their tone, how they look, their interactions, where they cross their arms, their posture, their breathing. Mirroring and matching gets people to like you immediately. Now, have you ever walked into a room, or I should say, if you ever walked in the room yourself or had somebody else walk in the room, and you immediately felt this person's energy level, you immediately felt this person's charisma, and you just listened to every word that they said? How would you like to have the same ability if I teach you today, besides the mirroring and matching? This is part 2 of this, and I'm working on keeping something that I learned over many, many years and trying to keep it very, very simple. I'm going to give you 2 ingredients to this. Something that let me pull up my notes here. We're going to go through 2 sides of it. One is we're going to go through embedded commands. We're going to go through embedded commands, which is the auditory piece. So whether you're over the phone, whether you are in person, you can use these commands, these directive commands. And the second thing is the visual side of it, which is the associative embedding. Associative embedding. So we're going to go through associative embedding first because it's the most powerful. It's a visual thing that you're going to see with these 2 different pieces. So today we're going to talk about embedding commands. Let me tell you what the definition of an embedded command is. An embedded command is a command that you embed inside of a question or a statement that subconsciously gives a command to the brain of another person to do a certain thing or perform a certain activity. Now, this actually was initially created by hypnotist Milton Erickson. He discovered that by isolating a command statement within a sentence, he could cause a person to respond to it as if the thoughts were their own. So it allows you to embed a command within a statement that people then, their subconscious mind picks up and feels that it's their own thought. All right, so how powerful is that? Now, you may say, well, is this like manipulating people? No, it isn't. This is simply, I'll go back to this. So this is a tool in your toolbox that you can use, just like the mirroring and matching. People like themselves the most, right? So if you mirror and match how they interact, how they communicate, what they do, if they cross their arms, if you mirror them, they feel comfortable with you right off the bat because they're feeling like you are like them, right? People like people that are like themselves. Same thing is true with this is simply a tool. So a knife is a tool. Whether you are somebody that uses that knife in a positive way or in a negative way is depending on the person. So I'm assuming and I'm hoping, type in the chat window if you're a good person. If you're a good person, you're going to use this to assist people to get to a conclusion that will benefit them. So if you're a real estate agent and you're actually passionate about people and helping them find a new home, for example, this is a really strong tool you can use to help them get to a decision quicker and feeling comfortable with you and the decision they're making. So you still have to go in and do the same things you were doing. It just allows you an easier path because they feel comfortable with you. So I'm going to teach you these tools. I'm assuming and I'm hoping you're not going to use it for the dark side. And I'm going to give you a quick video here I want to show you. And this is an example of an embedded command. All right. You're not going to be quite this good, but this is the power of an embedded command. All right. Hold on a second.
Let me see your identification.
You don't need to see his identification.
We don't need to see his identification.
These aren't the droids you're looking for.
These aren't the droids we're looking for.
He can go about his business.
You can go about your business.
Move along.
Move along. Move along.
All right, so you're not going to be quite that good, but that's an example of a command that's being embedded, so the subconscious mind is picking it up. So a couple quick things about this is your subconscious mind is a lot different than your conscious mind. Your subconscious mind is picking up all these things around you, even though you don't know that it is. So your subconscious mind is picking up all of these things that are happening around you. Your conscious mind is usually only focused on the directive. Your conscious mind is only focusing on one element, one dimension of what's actually happening. So the key to all of this is getting your subconscious mind to pick up on these cues. That's the first thing when we talk about this associative embedding. We're embedding it inside of other things that the subconscious mind is picking up. So let me ask you this question. Type in the chat window, please, because I want to see your comments. Is when you make a decision, typically, is it more of a logical decision or is it more of an emotional decision, especially initially? So most people, and again, I'm looking for your chat in there, most people spend probably 80% of their, I should say that 80% of their decisions are emotional, 20% are logic. Now, understand that the subconscious mind is emotional. Because the subconscious mind is linking everything you're seeing around you and is pulling it into your brain, and you're trying to relate it to different things, which is emotional. Your conscious mind is logical for most people. So what I want to encourage you to do is think about the power of not just where you're only using 20%, which is trying to sell something or sell somebody on your idea in a logical capacity, but you're using your subconscious mind to get them to move forward to an answer a lot quicker. So here's a couple of examples. So I'm going to say this to you guys and tell me if you can see this. So this is an example of utilizing, by the way, Riley, it looks like the internet connection is slow. Make sure no one else is sucking the power of the internet. So I don't care about those, just care about everybody else in the office. Are you guys seeing my video all right? It's just saying my video must have been deactivated because the internet connection's not fast enough to cover it. So I'm just making sure you guys are still able to see me all right. Let me scroll down the chat window here. All right. So here's an example. Have you ever met someone that when you met them, you immediately liked them, you immediately trusted them? Or have you ever met someone that when you met them, you just didn't like them for some reason and didn't trust them? So I'm giving you guys an example. I'm going to say this again to give you an example of what I'm doing here. Have you ever met someone that when you met them, you immediately liked them, you immediately trusted them? Or have you ever met someone that you first met them and you really didn't like them or didn't trust them for some reason? Now, if I ask you to repeat that back to me, you guys can't verbally, you can type in the chat window. But if I ask you to repeat that back to me, most people are going to say something like, as an example, have you ever met someone that when you met them, you didn't like them, or you met somebody else, you did like them? That's what most people say. But you're missing the associative conditioning that I'm doing to you. So when I'm saying, have you ever met someone, right? I'm pointing, this is my hand gestures, I'm pointing to you, met someone that when you met them, what am I doing? I'm pointing to myself. When you met them, you immediately trusted them, and you didn't know why. You liked them and trusted them. You didn't know why. But have you ever met someone else? See how I'm making it external for myself? So I'm anchoring my face to you trusting me. Okay, this is an example. So have you ever met someone when you trusted them, you immediately liked them, and you trusted them, you didn't know why? Have you met somebody else that when you met them, you didn't trust them and you didn't know why? What I'm doing is anything that I want them to feel in a positive capacity, I'm pointing to myself. They're anchoring my face to that. Or I'm making it external if it's not positive. You guys all follow me with that? This is something very, very simple I'm showing you, a simple example. This isn't like an 8-hour course I'm trying to condense down to about 30 minutes with you guys. And if you guys really like this stuff enough, I will teach you all the skills of neurolinguistics programming, and you'll be deadly at this stuff. But if you every single week you work on it, I mean, how many of you guys worked on the mirroring and matching last time? I want you guys to start working on this. And when we get done today, the homework for you is to look at what you do in business and find 4 or 5 statements and things you can say or do that you can utilize this in. So here's another example. Let's say if you wrote a book. You wrote a book and you go to your publisher. Have you ever read a book and the first time you read this book, you just wanted to publish it because you loved it so much? What am I doing? I'm anchoring my book into their subconscious mind, and they're having to think. So when I'm telling them, have you ever read a book that when you read it, you immediately wanted to publish it? What they're doing is they're having to think. They may not think back to exact circumstance, but they're having to use their mind to think of a time when they did that. And now I'm anchoring it to this book. Or, for example, let's say you're a real estate agent, you're showing somebody a house, and you're standing there in the kitchen table, and you're putting your hands on the table. Have you ever I'm just asking you a question here, Robert. Have you ever been, into a house that when you saw it, you immediately loved it and you just had to have it? What was it about that house that you loved? And I'm putting my hands on the countertop. What that's doing is subconsciously anchoring that house to being the house they saw they immediately loved. So, Robert, have you ever seen a house? Have you ever walked into a house and when you saw it, you just immediately fell in love with it? What was it about that house that you loved? That's another example of using associative conditioning to an object or to a system that puts them, you're saying things logically, you're saying things for their conscious mind, they're not picking up the subconscious pieces. Now, magicians use this all the time, which is why they can do a magic trick, and they're doing all these things that your subconscious mind is seeing, but you're not picking it up, but it's programming you in a certain way. Because it's using the things that you would normally. Here's another example. Have you ever gone to the cupboard and you think in your mind, I can't find the salt. You look in the cupboard, you scan everywhere. You can't find the salt. Somebody else goes, they look in the cupboard and find the salt immediately. That's because you've been conditioned. You condition yourself by saying, I don't know I can't find the salt. You're conditioning yourself. So what you're doing is you're putting a suggestion in their brain, and people ask, well, how many times do we have to do this? It could be 3 or 4 times. It just depends. You do it until you get a reaction from that person, until they do something or take an action that you want them to do. So when I converse with people, I'm always utilizing these things. Now, here's the example. You guys remember in the old days, it became illegal. But for those that are old enough, remember going to movies, and even though you didn't see the Coca-Cola and the top and everything else and the buttered popcorn, you didn't see it, but every 5 seconds they were putting one clip on that screen of popcorn, of soda, every 5 seconds. You didn't see it, but your subconscious mind picked it up, and all of a sudden you were hungry for salted popcorn and buttered popcorn, and you wanted a soda. Now, if you didn't know this is kind of interesting. And the power of this versus audibly is that it's still not illegal on the radio, for example, to play an embedded command within a radio announcement, right? So if they're selling something on the radio, you know why? It's ineffective. It's proven it really doesn't work that well. But visually, it works so well. Your subconscious mind grabs a hold of it. Your brain is visual. Your subconscious mind is visual. And so you got to think of these ways to embed commands. Let me show you this again. So I'm going to show you one last time to see. And I want you to think of ways that you can use this depending on what business you're in, right? So again, have you ever met someone, the second you met them, you immediately trusted them? And you immediately liked them and you didn't really know why? Or have you ever met someone else that you first met them, you really didn't like them, you didn't trust them, and you also didn't know why? What I've done there is I'm programming my face to you trusting me. Now, that's not what you're going to use. I'm simply showing you an example. Here's another example again. If you publish a book, go to your publisher. Have you ever read a book that you absolutely loved? Like you wanted to publish that book the second you read it? This is that book. And I hand it to my publisher. You're locking in the subconscious mind this book, anchoring that book. I've anchored myself by doing this. If I'm at showing a house, I'm anchoring that house. This thing, have you ever walked into a house, you immediately fell in love with that house? What was it? I'm curious. What was it about that house that you loved? And I'm going like this the whole time. That is anchoring them. It's putting in their subconscious mind that house. Do you guys follow me? This is the first example. Okay. Second example is something you can use as well that's as equally as powerful. But secondarily, you can also use it over the phone. You can't use that over the phone, that one. That's visual. If you can get together with somebody and use the visual and use the auditory piece that I'm going to show you right now at the same time, you're deadly. But if you can't use the visual piece, at least use the audible piece, and it'll help you. This is called a directive command. I'm telling you to do something in a question or a statement, and your subconscious mind picks it up. Okay, so here's an example. Go to my example here. Here's an example that I want to use. All right, so let's say if Caleb, I want to get Caleb to come over to my house for dinner. So instead of saying, Caleb, do you want to come over to my house for dinner, the way most people would say it, what I would say is, Caleb, do you want to come over to my house for dinner? Caleb, do you want to come over to my house for dinner? So what are you picking up there? Come over to my house for dinner is the embedded command. So Caleb, do you want to come over to my house for dinner? Do you guys see that? Do you guys see the little subtle piece of me conditioning Caleb's brain to come over to my house for dinner? I'm telling him what I want. But he thinks it's a question. His conscious mind doesn't pick that up. Caleb, do you want to come over to my house for dinner? Versus, Caleb, do you want to come over to my house for dinner? Okay, that is no power behind it. So it's an embedded command within a statement or a question. I'm asking you guys if you guys follow me, if you're seeing the differences here. You're seeing the difference. I want to see in the chat window. And the key is be inviting, not insisting, or not being threatening. Caleb, come over to my house for dinner. That doesn't work. You want to be inviting. Caleb, do you want to come over to my house? And see how I'm doing if I'm in front of you? I'm using both. Caleb, do you want to come over to my house for dinner? See, I'm anchoring him, and he doesn't even realize how I'm doing it. Number two, so number one, I already told you. Number one is you want to be inviting, not insisting, but you also want to be confident and compelling versus desperate or begging. So, Caleb, do you want to come over to my house for dinner? See how I upended at the back end? That's not how you, Caleb, do you want to come over to my house for dinner? That is no power to it. Okay, so you want to be inviting and you want to be confident with it. Caleb, do you want to come over to my house for dinner? It's simply how you're saying it differently. And I want you to think of the statements you say to people in business, if you go out to eat at a restaurant, hey, could you get me a table? It's how you're saying things that's embedding commands into the conversations. Here's a good sample script. I'm going to read this a couple of times so you see if you pick it up. There are 3 embedded commands in this statement that I'm utilizing, and I want you to write down what those 3 embedded commands are. I want to see who gets this right. Okay? So here's the sample script. Let's say I'm going back to there's a couple real estate agents I know watching this. Let's say if you're a real estate agent. So if I call somebody over the phone, I could say, so let me ask you this, Christine. When we get together, if everything looks good and you feel confident that I am the right agent to sell your property, are you planning to hire me when we meet? I'll say this again. You're trying to pick all 3 of the embedded commands here. So let me ask you this, Roger. When we get together, if everything looks good and you feel confident that I'm the right agent to sell your property, are you planning to hire me when we meet? Looking in the chat window for the 3. I'll say it one last time. I want to know the 3 embedded commands I'm putting into there in your subconscious mind. So let me ask you this. When we get together, if everything looks good and you feel confident that I'm the right agent to sell your property, are you planning to hire me when we meet? Yep. Karen Moeller nailed it. Karen Moeller gets $100. She's the first person on here to nail it. Karen Moeller makes you get $100. You guys didn't know I was going to give you money, right? That's why you want to answer every single question. So again, I am embedding commands into the conversation that I'm having, and most people don't even pick this up. I'm giving you all my secret sauce, guys. That's how much I love you guys. I want you guys to succeed in everything you do. And these are simply tools that you can use. I've given you 2 powerful tools to use. One is the mirroring and matching. If you didn't watch that video, go back 2 weeks ago and watch my video on mirroring and matching, how you mirror and match people. I'm telling you, if I only learned that and utilized that over the past 2.5 decades, that piece alone has completely altered and changed my life with my interactions with people. Now, how many of you guys, when I talk about mirroring and matching and how I step into your space a little bit, how I shake a hand, see me doing that have been around me enough to see me? You don't know why you like me. You don't know why. Some people don't, but you don't know why, a lot of people like me. You don't know why that, I have the charisma that I have. It's all of this stuff is structured in a way that I created this person that I am and how I conduct myself. This second piece of this is equally as deadly, which is learning how to embed commands and using the subconscious mind to benefit you. If you're talking about something positive, you're embedding the command. Do you want to come over to my house for dinner? See, I'm embedding a command that makes you look at me, anchors me to something positive. Or anchors something if it's something I don't want to have anchored to me. Mistrust for someone, not liking someone. I'm putting it external from myself and my hand gestures. Okay, so what I ask you guys to do, I'm going to have you, we've got 5 minutes here left. I want you to write down, each one of you, one statement you could use and embed a command, and the embedded part, put a capitalization to it. Embed a command on here. I want to see if you guys got this. At least most of you guys got this that give a shit. I want you to actually use this. And the homework you guys have is each one of you create 3 embedded commands. And I want you to be conscious of the hand gestures you're using and how you're saying things and how to utilize this to your benefit, how to utilize the subconscious mind. Because again, understand 80% at least of the decisions that are made emotionally, not logically. What you're saying out there, what you're saying is like 20% of it. That's it. It's how you're saying it and what you're embedding into that conversation that makes the difference. Okay. I'm looking in the chat window here. I want to look in the chat window, see if any of you guys can find out with what you do a way to do it. I'll use one example for those that work with me. You know, what I'd like you to do is send a copy of your electricity and natural gas bills to me. See, all I'm doing is what I would like you to do is send a copy of your electricity and natural gas bills to me this week. That's a simple embedded command versus saying, can you send me your bills this week? That's a very, very simple command that I'm using. It's whatever you want them to do, you simply act as if everything else in that sentence is gone of what you would say to give them a marching orders, right? Would you like to come over to my house for dinner? It's simply how you're saying it. It's the tone of how you're saying it. You guys all getting this? Looking in the chat window. Ooh, I like that, Karen. Corey, I would like to schedule a meeting. I'd like you to schedule a meeting with me in the next 2 weeks. Would you like to schedule a call to learn more? That's perfect. Get a couple of you guys, Karen. Not Karen, caring. Exactly. Thursday afternoon works for a call. So let's schedule a call on Thursday afternoon. Let's schedule a call on Thursday afternoon. Practice this. I'm telling you, excuse me, in your business, create 3 or 4 things that you say over and over again. Simply embed your command in there. So let me ask you, if I address your objections, are you willing? Don't say willing. Okay, so I guess you can say willing to move forward. That's fine. Okay, Dennis. If I address your objections, are you willing to move forward with the next steps? That's good. I would like you to... Tom, that may not be good. You can't say, I would like you to help me close this deal. So I would say something like, if I answer all your questions, if the numbers look good, are you ready to move forward this week to get this done? Do you guys, are you guys seeing this? Do you want me to give you more examples or whatever you're doing personally that I can give you some examples? So what you're doing is simply embedding commands with, again, whatever statement. And in your scripts, capitalize the words or the command that you're giving in that conversation. Capitalize all those words so you know to pause for a split second. Caleb, do you want to come over to my house for dinner? Okay? It's all the difference between, Caleb, do you want to come over to my house for dinner? It's how you're doing it. That's embedding a command, but don't miss out whenever you're face-to-face with someone, which is also why I like video, because I'm always programming what I want in those conversations. Those that have watched me on stage, I do this all the time. You're not picking it up, but I've gotten so trained to do this for the past 2.5 decades. I do this without even thinking about it, but I'm always embedding commands. I'll tell you, the master at it is Tony Robbins. Those that come with me to his event will see how he's doing this all day long. David Sarno is amazing at this. I love that, Alex. All right. Thank you guys for your time. I hope you utilize this. Tune in next week. We're going to have another awesome topic. But again, build one thing after the next. It doesn't do any good to learn this and not put it in practice. The mirroring and matching, watch it again, get it down, make sure you've got that piece, and now use these embedded commands. I've given you 2 sides of it. One is something you can do visually only, and one you can do audibly and visually when you're face to face with somebody, which is embedding the statement inside of the question or the statement, embedding what you want to use. And the second thing is at a high level when you're talking to somebody, it's how you're embedding it. So again, at a house, let me ask you a question. Have you ever walked into a house, the second you walked in, you absolutely loved it and had to have that house? What was it about that house that you loved? I'm anchoring that house to their subconscious mind. Thank you, guys. I appreciate you. We'll talk to you soon. Have a great week. Bye-bye.